Hi, this is Allison Villars, Director of Health and Human Services, and I'm back with another In the Loop. And today I have a wonderful guest with me. His name is Rick Loggins, and Rick is going to tell you a little bit about himself, but today we're talking about cyberbullying. In order to get into that topic, we'll talk a little bit about bullying, but I'm going to ask Rick, what does he do here at St. Tammany Parish, and how did he learn about this topic? Hey, Rick.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
So what's your position at St. Tammany Parish?
I'm the Director of Technology. I've been here a little over 10 years now.
So because you're the Director of Technology, you stay up to date with what's happening in technology world, right?
Oh, in this field you have to. It's constantly moving forward. And also back into some senses, if you think about it, there's not a day that goes by in the news where some cyber attack or some cyber is not on the news. If you look at the national news, you look at the local news, it's all over the place. This industry is fun, but it's also frightening in a lot of ways too.
Mm-hmm. So we have a frightening topic to talk about today, particularly to children and young adults. Maybe even to adults. I'm certain it happens in the adult population as well, but we're really concentrating on those people in school at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're going to talk a little bit about bullying first, and I'm going to talk about the three things that make something a bullied experience. And these are the three bottom line kinds of things. The first is repetition. So even if a person who is being a bully has been asked to stop, they continue the behavior, which is over a repetition. So it gets to be something that the person being bullied, starts to be afraid of when is that next thing going to happen. And this is general bullying. This is not specific to cyberbullying, although it would happen in that case as well. The other thing is that it's a power differential. So the person who is the bully actually steps up and creates that there's a power difference between me and the person I'm bullying. So that person has less social status or is found to have people laughing at them. So they are sort of downgraded in the status that is created. And the last thing is intent. There is definitely intent to bully. There's an intent between this person and the person who's being bullied. That intention is to make that person not feel okay at any given point in time. So that's general bullying things. So does cyberbullying sort of play into those three things?
Oh, absolutely, but I'll add one thing to the cyberbullying. They can go unknown. You've got the internet hiding who they are, because a lot of people use aliases online. Right? So you don't know who's really coming after you or who's bullying you. Mm-hmm. And that's what, in a lot of senses, makes it worse, because you don't know who's actually confronting you or coming to you. Which is interesting if you think about it, is that we've got, and we see it everywhere too, right? We have this anonymity over the board where you can kind of hide yourself from everyone else. Look at what comes out on Facebook and in Twitter as an example. We don't know those handles that they use, who they really are. Mm-hmm. And that's, you think about it, it's kind of a bad situation, because it could be someone you're close to, it could be someone you don't even know doing this to you.
Okay, so how does cyberbullying take place? I know you said Facebook and I know you said Twitter, but what other kinds of cyber stuff can people do to people?
Well, it could be not only Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, email, even as far as people setting up the websites to go after someone. Right? Setting up websites today is relatively cheap and relatively easy to do that. Anyone with any basic technical skills can set up a website, and they could do this to go after someone. And the cost, some places, is $0 to just a few dollars per month to do this. But I'd like to, what's the definition of cyberbullying? You kind of gave the definition of the other one. And the National Child Safety Council defines cyberbullying as when kids bully, embarrass, threaten, or harass others over and over again using the internet, cell phones, or other interactive technologies. So the difference is there is we're using technologies to try to bully someone. And if you think about that too, is that you could be bullying someone during school during the day, but then you could also go home at night while you think there's some separation, and then it may be a place of safety, they're bullying them over their cell phone, or they're both bullying them over email, or they're bullying. So it extends a lot further than just our normal day-to-day interactions with people.
Right.
And that's part of what's frightening about it, because there's some statistics that's kind of out there. And I advise everyone go see the National Child Safety Council. There's lots of stuff on there about cyberbullying and all type of other bullying. But 42% of kids have been bullied online.
42%?
42%. 58% of those have never told their parents. And then you go, well, why wouldn't they tell their parents? Well, there's a couple of things about that. One of them, they're afraid that parents are going to overreact, right? And the other thing, the child is keeping it to themselves and thinking that they can handle it themselves, right? So that's where you get that distance. Usually the way the parents find out about it, it's gotten out of hand, or they've been physically threatened or something, and they go, I got to do something about this. But that's frightening. You think about it, that's almost 50% of the kids have been bullied some type of way online, and we don't know about it. Right.
Well, that means that out there are a whole lot of people doing bullying, and we're also worried about them as children.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's two sides of every story, right? Right. So there's what is driving this, right? But we talk about these type of things, and we talk about cybersecurity and business and that kind of stuff. But we must protect our children and know what our children are doing. There's a couple things in there. I have 2 grandsons, and I got interested in this. I've been interested in cybersecurity for a long time, but I got interested in this because they're getting to the age where they want cell phones, right? They want this type, and I said, how do I protect them from them? In my family, I'm the tech guy, right? My daughter's a dietitian, so they rely on me to look at this stuff. And I said, well, what can we do? When you look at, there are some things online that we have. Microsoft has Family. Office 365 Family, where you can watch what your kids do and you get all kind of stats from it. Google has Safety Center, which has Family. You have Messenger for kids and Facebook. Amazon has Kindle Time. You can kind of wrap it up. But when you get in this text world, what goes on, right? And how do we find it out that our kids are in trouble if they're not talking to us? And some, they're just private too, because they want to keep some of their stuff, when they go through some of those adolescent years. And that's kind of interesting when you look at that transition. One of the things I found when I was researching and looking through this is that girls seem to be a lot more into this type of bullying than the boys are. Right? So not go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I don't know if it's because of the separations. They don't have to do it face to face, right? It's a lot easier to be mean to someone when you don't have to look them eye to eye, right?
Well, I would think so, but I'm not sure about how everybody thinks about it. So I guess there's people who do face-to-face and are okay with it, because the bullying directly takes on a physical thing sometimes too.
True.
So
Correct.
it can actually be somebody afraid to get beat up over their lunch money and that kind of thing. So.
That's true too. That's true too. But we talked about email. You got instant messaging now. You got cell phones, cameras, texting, chat rooms, bulletin boards, blogs, and I actually mentioned creating websites, and that's been known. There's been a few cases that I read doing this research about how someone was bullying someone, and they actually went to create an entire website just to go after this person. And they distributed that website throughout their school. And some kind of way actually got it onto the school's website to click on to go to this site. And you think about that for a child when it feels like everyone's coming after them. It's just got to be devastating from their point of view.
So I heard that one of the other things that I was reading about before we met here is that people can be bullied over games.
Oh, absolutely. Any of those. But that's that interactive media, when we talk to interactive technology.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's that whole gaming situation. Because now they're playing games. Sometimes they're texting during the game to each other. And they also have headsets on, which they're talking to some of the other competitors. And they get bullied that way too. So, I mean, this is a new world. I mean, we're opening lots and lots of things up because of the technology and what they can get into. Yeah, I think about that. You're talking on a headset to someone and you don't know where they're at. They could be in the United States, they could be in China, they could be in the Middle East, they could be in Russia, they could be anywhere in this world. The internet has really just flattened communications if you really think across the world. At any point in time, you can be talking to anyone, just about anywhere.
Well, I was, in the reading I did, it talked about when schools had guidelines or restrictions or programs related to bullying, including cyberbullying, there were 50% less bullying going on in those schools. So I was wondering if cyberbullying is more likely to happen in neighborhoods, or is it spawning from school environments typically? Do you know?
No, I don't know, but what I would think what you just said is education.
Education.
Right? We educate them, and because some of the things I read is teach your kids to have empathy and to think, look at it from the other person's seat, right? Think about how they would be looking at a certain situation, and why are you mad at them, basically. But this empathy part, what you just said tells to me that by educating them, what does this mean? Even though you're not face to face with them, it hurts.
Yeah.
And there's some cases I read too where parents were getting into the bullying of other kids because someone may have been picking on their child. We should be above that as parents, to be honest with you.
I'm guessing that certainly is a truth for me, and we would hope that parents would take that seriously. So what can parents do?
Well, there's a couple of other statistics I'd like to throw out.
Okay.
One of us is that 40% of our kids' passwords are stolen in some kind of account. So even though we have one may be bullying another, Steve may be bullying John, but Steve may not be the one bullying because his credentials were taken. And it may be an email, it could be in Twitter or Facebook and those kind of things. That's a lot. So, and we'll talk about passwords here in a
So
second.
we can't jump to conclusions.
Conclusions that it is the person we think it is, right? It could be someone else. 90% of middle school students have had their feelings hurt online. And that goes back to something that was either said directly or even in kind of a sideways note, right? That cheerleader was bad or something like that, and they reference that. 75% of kids have visited a website that attacked another student. So when we talked earlier about getting things out there, when someone created their own website or doing something else and it gets distributed, right, it spreads pretty fast. Hey, did you see this, right? Those type of things. And I thought this was another interesting. 1 in 3 teens and 1 in 6 preteens receive threats online. You think about that, that's frightening numbers. We raise our kids and we're with our kids to try to get us, to protect our children, and now we've got this whole new world. When we were raising our daughter, we didn't have this world. Even though I was in technology, we didn't have this world. This is a recent invention of the last 10 plus years, and there are no parenting books on exactly how to take care of this or how to deal with it. So it interests me on how can we do and what can we do with our that we have capabilities to do today, because that's part of the problem, right? Not all the tools are there or the things that we should have, but what do we have today? I got 10 things to recommend.
Okay.
One of them is look at your child and search for your child's name online. Just Google it. See what others are saying about them. See what's out there about them. Is it good things, bad things? Is there your home address there? Is their email address posted online? Is their age, photos, any of those things, just to see what's online about them. So you can get some handle on that. And if they have a nickname, search also the nickname. If they have an alias online name, search that alias online, like a Twitter handle or a Facebook handle. Monitor your child's online correspondence. We talked a little bit earlier, I said something about Microsoft Family and Google's Security Center for Families and those type of things. You can actually monitor and see what's going on. You have access to those type of things.
From your own computer?
From your own computer.
Okay.
With my grandsons, every time they go to buy a game or want to look at a game, I get a notice. So I get a notice and I can approve it online or let it go. I also have access to all the stuff that they're doing, so we can kind of look at it and see what's going on. On their handles.
Wait, hold on. Do they know about that?
Yeah, but they're 8 and 10, so they don't quite have a full grasp of what we're doing.
Yeah. So
Right.
parents should tell their children that.
Well, they should be upfront, right? Hiding it and coming back later, just you lose trust, in my opinion. Your child's handle online should be kind of genderless, right? If you use some provocative names or use some things that maybe signify a young lady or something like that, it's going to draw more people to it, just by what it is. And you got to educate your kids too about forums and all that kind of stuff, and never put any personal information on it, right? Don't put any information of your address, or, you know, my parents are not going to be home Saturday night, those type of things, because it just, once it's out there, and no telling who gets it, right? We've seen enough movies where the parents go off on vacation and the teenage son has a big party while they're gone, right? At their house. Well, this is kind of the same thing, but we're putting it out there a different way that we have to be careful with. We got to teach our children to read what we put on there and really think through it before they hit the send button. Once it's out there in the internet, there's no withdrawing it. There's no one going back and taking it away. It's out there. There are data protection standards in the United States that are well, today they're coming into formulation. They're not 100% there. Great Britain, Europe has some really good standards in place. But when you look at other countries like China and the Middle East, there are no standards on data protection. And this data goes all over the world. So you never know where it's going to end up and who's going to have access to it. So be very careful what you put out there. You know, if you think about addresses, date of birth, social security numbers, any of those phone numbers, addresses, all those type of things. Be very careful what you put. Notify your child as they get older and their teenage years and all those things, that they have to understand anything they put online is public record. Someone's going to find it, even if it's on Facebook in the private section or Twitter, whatever. It's going to end up online. Someone's going to grab it and repost it somewhere else where it's not private anymore. So you've got to be careful and understand that you put it out there, it's out there, and then you can't pull it back. And this history follows you when you start to get, you know, you're going to get into job force, you're going to go to school, you're going to apply for grants, you're going to apply for scholarships, you're going to apply for that, you're going to apply for employment. That stuff follows you. It's always there. It never goes away. Sitting in a bar drinking a beer follows you forever. I mean, it's just out there. Passwords. Know your child's password, right? Know how to get into their accounts and look around. Let them know that you're doing that. One of the things I read this weekend I thought was interesting is with new couples. There, you know, you can sign in with your phone now with your fingerprint. Well, one of the fingerprints is a spouse or the other person saying, I want to have access to your stuff, so I want you to register my fingerprint. That may be a way to do it with your child, right? And so you can get in there and look around what they're doing, and it's only to protect them, right, and to understand what they're doing. There are ways in your computer, and there's actually some reasonable software too that you can put on computers where you can track their correspondence, emails, those type of things, where they're searching on their websites, what websites they're going. Look, the Microsoft and the Google have ways to block things they can't go to, but also stop them from going into sites and putting things that shouldn't be there, right? Addresses, those type of things. And
you can block that?
Some of it all depends. You know, I don't want to get too technical,
Okay.
but there's some of the things Google and the Microsoft do very well in blocking. Some things, the way the site's set up, it does not recognize as that. Some of them yes, some of them no. It's not 100% across the board. If you think about those, and like with hackers in this world, they always find new innovations. They always find new ways to get by the next roadblock, the next firewall, the next thing. It's constantly shifting. It's constantly moving. Social media accounts, make sure you're private. Your Twitters, your Facebooks, and everything's set to private. Just remember though that it may not always be private, because someone can take it and repost it somewhere else, and now it's in a public domain. And talk to your kids about internet safety. There's the national, I mentioned in the beginning, that National Child Safety Council has lots of really good brochures, lots of good data out there about internet safety and how to tip internet safety. Schools have some sessions now when they start taking classes. The schools my two grandkids go to, they talk to them about internet safety and about some of that stuff for their age groups. But we have to be careful. We have to understand that this stuff is moving forward. The internet it's a great tool. It's a great wealth of information. Where can a child sit down and learn just about anything, right? All they have to do is, the common search term now is Google, right? All they have to do is Google it and they can learn stuff. So we don't want to take it away from them, that learning ability, that access to that much information, but we've got to be careful what they're accessing and how they're getting to it.
Because there's no way to know that what they're accessing is actually the truth of what they wanted to know.
Correct.
They're going to get something back.
They're going to get something back. Yeah.
But you need to be on top of that too.
You got to be on top of it. But it's think about the mass amount of information out there that people can learn from.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what parents can do. And one of the things that I read about, and you've been a parent, so you can talk about it, and now you're a grandparent, so is that they ought to know what their school does in relationship to teaching kids about bullying or being a bully or being bullied. And there are schools that also talk about a bystander, and what you can do as a bystander. So if you see something, say something, basically. So the data I read put children or young adults into three categories, and one is those who are been bullied, the actual victim.
And we had some pretty high statistics there.
Right. And those who have been bullying, and then the third category, which I'm about to forget, is those who have been witness of bullying. And so it can take a toll on all of those three groups. So one of the things parents can do is know what the school says in all of those three instances and the kinds of rules and standards they have and what they teach your kids. And hopefully if there's a parent-teachers association, inspire them to create a program for parents on this topic and make sure that you find a way to get there.
Absolutely.
So the other thing is know what bullying is. So we talked about it at the beginning. It's repetitive, it has intent, and it's a power differential between people. So and recognizing the signs of all three of those categories. So, is somebody bullying in our family? Are they bullying somebody, or are they being bullied, or have been witness to it? So you have to recognize the signs, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the immediate risk of harming self or others. So if you assume or you see something going on in your family and you think that they are harming someone or they've been harmed or have been witness to that, to take immediate action with that child or young adult to help them get assistance as soon as possible. Because the worst thing they can do is the end result of this whole experience for people could be unfortunately, the demise of a youth, either with mental health, substance abuse, or actually death, mostly by suicide. And be involved in kids' school life. So know what's going on at the school. When the events are happening, go with your child when it's humanly possible for you to do that. Witness how your child is interacting with other kids. So warning signs, are out there and available. Identifying cyberbullies. Did you see this? This is on the CDC's website, the Center for Disease Control, and it talks about, if a kid has multiple accounts,
Well, and they're so easily created now. I mean, it costs $0 to create it. An Outlook account online, a Gmail account, a Yahoo account. It costs nothing. Right, and there's one little thing, so you have to be, it says, I don't remember, 18 years old or something like that. Well, there's no penalty, so everyone clicks it and just moves on, right? And they're easy to do. And these kids today are so more technology savvy than they were 10 and 15 years ago. So this is just it. But look how they work their iPads or their cell phones. I mean, most of them can work them better than we can, right?
I know.
And they just, it's just natural to them.
So identifying cyberbullies, look for those multiple accounts and what access they have to other people's accounts. And then watch the use of electronic devices at all hours of the day, particularly at night. And if you see a child doing that, find out what their experience online is. What are they doing when they're there? And express inappropriate anger. The kid would express inappropriate anger when they're limited from use of screen time or their devices. And it would be at a level that's not normal for your child, and you would know what that is. And identifying the victims of cyberbullying is a generalized increase, this goes for bullying too, in anxiety, depression, or frustration, increased anger, frustration, or depression after using electronic equipment, refusal to talk with parents or teachers about online activities, stops using electronics devices altogether, and withdrawal from social, even home activities. So those are some of the cues to look for in either someone who's doing cyberbullying or someone who's in the receipt. And I'm certain you'll know specifically about your own children what it is that you would want to look at. And this is just, to put that out there and highlight that bullying and cyberbullying are major issues in our culture today, and help people start to think about it more as a consciousness relating exercise.
We're in it's a new world.
Right.
Right? There's no parroting books, there's no stuff out there to talk about this stuff. And it's educating yourself as parents and grandparents to understand this so we can help our children through this. Because it's new. I mean, we haven't had to deal with this in generations past.
Right. So the signs of a child being bullied, these are general signs, but unexplained, and this is bullying, so it takes in cyberbullying and in person. Unexplainable injuries, lost or destroyed clothing or items, headaches or stomach aches, faking illness, skipping meals or binge eating, difficulty sleeping or nightmares, bad grades or loss of interest, not wanting to go to school, sudden loss of friends, avoiding social engagements, feelings of helplessness, low self-esteem, self-harming behaviors, running away from home, and talking about suicide. So it's not anything for us to be afraid of if we see these things, because they could mean multiple things, but to have bullying or cyberbullying as one of the things that might be happening to your child is something to take heed to. And then talking to your school counselors and your school principals and your children's teachers is a really good way to stay on top of things.
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged, that's great, yeah, for parents. And for kids, if you're a bystander and you're witnessing this, those are things to look for in your friends, and to be able to talk to your friends and tell them what you saw and that you didn't appreciate it, or standing up to a bully or going to an adult and bringing them into the situation. So Rick, we've been real happy to have you here as our cyberbullying, our actual cyber specialist, and we're really, really happy that you've been doing some study so you can take even better care of your grandchildren.
Oh, I'm always concerned in this field. We read more than I care to talk about at times because it is all frightening. But if we do the right approaches, we can take care of it.
Well,
and being aware.
Well, thank you and your IT staff at St. Tammany Parish Government for taking such good care of parish IT.
Well, thank you.
And we're really glad you joined us for this session of In the Loop, and we hope we've given you some ideas and thoughts that you might pursue to help our culture here in St. Tammany Parish stay high quality with a whole lot of caring and empathy for one another.